Oh dear, this happens. Oh, how all does this work? I'm not familiar with YouTube live streams. Is it rotate device? Okay, I guess I did it wrong. So this is mostly just me figuring out how this all works and if it's something I'd be interested in using in the future. I don't know how to check comments. Maybe they just show up on screen while I'm doing it, but what I wanted to do here was talk about how I go about... Oh, hey goat, or oh no goat, or whatever you want to call it. I have no idea how well this is working. I'm just testing it out. This might not be something I do that regularly, trying out the YouTube live stream. Hi, guy. But what I wanted to focus on this time was just a quick little video on two-player recordings, because I have someone coming over for a recording session soon, and I figured that there's a lot more that goes into this than normal with my recordings, because... How do I change? Is that it? There. Normally with my recordings, I just kind of take my mic from over here, pull it down, and there's not too much more than that, because I can be so close to the mic, and the camera's already sitting up here in a good spot for it, so in most cases there's not a whole lot of setup before recording for solo, but for two-player, it gets really complicated, because this I just have like all the stuff in the right place, and I can just pretty much turn on the light, pull out the microphone, and go. But there's a lot more. No, it's this image, if you've seen that. But the reason that two-player becomes so much more difficult is because of audio dampening. So for two-player, we usually go on the couch, or the double recliner. Hey, CJ. The thing is, whereas it takes maybe 2 or 3 minutes to get things going on desktop, it can be like a 20-minute setup or something for two people, and so I figured I'd go over what all the process behind that is. So the first thing, and probably the most important, is all these blankets that you see hanging up, because in the large scale of the room, you probably can't notice it really now because, well, they're up, but it really helps with sound. Spots? What spots? Spots? I see a dot. I don't see a spot. But the thing with this is, this room starts to sound really echoey. Like, the further you get from the mic, the more... Oh, that, yeah. That's just the blanket. It's just what I have around. And I think it makes a fun background if I can ever get it to work. But due to the overhang in my ceiling here, I typically can't really hang something behind it that easily. But the reason I hang the blankets is because it sounds really bad when they're not hanging. This really helps with the audio canceling, especially in the area around the mic. But then I also have the webcam usually set up for a view something like that, or I guess I can kind of like that, which that's about the best I can do because there's still this gap in between us, but I feel like it's still close enough that it works well for a recording. But all the various wires that I have to rearrange is, like, I have one coming from here and 2 USB plugs, but I have to wire the mic over here, and I have this metal and ceramic table that I've been using for a long time, actually. It's small, but it's really heavy, so I like to use it for my mic because it lets me kind of place it anywhere, and it's not going to wobble around or fall over because it's very sturdy. And I also like to have it out back here because, oh, where is it? these chairs recline, and we can easily do that while recording if we have it spaced out like that. And then, so I have one cable for the camera, one cable for the mic, but then we each wear a pair of headphones. I used to do it with just low audio from the sound system, but that proves to be really bad. Even if it's really quiet, it picks up in the mic. But what I found for this is I just output the desktop audio from the capture device, and then I have it in here with my neck pillow, but there's a splitter for the headphones, and then we can just pick any headphones at random. We've got a bit of a selection over here, so whatever works for us, we just use those headphones. Something I haven't tried before, this NES blanket. It doesn't really do much sound dampening, but I figured it could be a fun background, and because of how lightweight the blanket is, this was the closest I could get to having it look normal. So, But another thing is lighting, which is very precise. The blanket I have over here has to be hooked around on the fireplace, which, if you didn't know, that's a fireplace over there behind these posters. And then I have lights up kind of all over. I specifically have yellow lights here, and a white light up here. And then this is a very dim white light above. And that all kind of combines to make it so that it kind of gives a more realistic look. It's not like, it's more of a full color than a just plain white, and it doesn't make us look super pale. And it also means that when we sit back on the couch, we get lighting from both sides. And I had to stop this blanket at this point so that from down here on this couch, the light could still hit you. But I also had to have this light in such a position where from this spot, it still would get the left side. And really, that's the best I could do. And I had to wire a bunch of stuff. The thing is, because of I'm trying to actually keep a series a secret for once because people get upset that I spoil it, I can't really say who it is or what game we're playing yet. Actually, we don't know what game we're playing. We have a short list to decide between, but what I do for the capture card is if we play a console game, I have an HDMI cable back here. I just plug it into any console I want. And if I'm playing a retro console, I have an adapter over here that will make any AV console into HDMI so I can capture it. And that's what this cable is here. It's the power cable for that. And then I can wire it to any other console. The only one I can't capture is the PS3 because it has special firmware in it that prevents it from actually being usable in most capture devices, or at least some of them are blocked out. And if we do something on PC, I have a wireless keyboard under here we can use, as well as my wireless mouse, and then I have a wooden beam over there that we can just lay across if we want it to be more of a desktop feel. And then I'd also just be able to plug in a cable on the back of the computer, and this would be our main monitor for it regardless. So that's kind of the setup behind it. A lot of kind of specific things. Also, if you're wondering how I've hung the blue screen so far, because of the type of ceiling I have all these binder clips kind of at increments, so it's always flat and really quick to hang up, and they're always exactly where I need them to be. And because it's a comforter, it also offers a lot of sound dampening instead of just a typical green screen, which is kind of like a thin tarp or something like that. But otherwise, that was what I mostly had in mind, just to describe that, because it's stuff that isn't really brought up much ever. And some people were asking me at one point or the other, how I set up recordings, and ultimately there's not much of anything behind how I do the single player stuff, but whenever it gets over to the couch or I'm doing it with a friend, a lot of extra factors get brought in. I suppose if we get into softwares, the three that I primarily use, now any given recording session I will be using all three of these. So I use Audacity, which records the raw audio from the mic, and I can tweak the sensitivity of that, which typically I keep it around 50, but whenever we're in the big room and there's a lot of echo and we sound quieter, I go to 90. If you go much higher than that, I've found that it starts to pick up static in the air. And then for this is OBS. That's where I capture the webcam feed, and in most cases I won't capture any audio from OBS. I'll just be capturing the visuals, since our audio comes from there and the game audio is recorded directly in the Elgato software, which I always have to remember, but I turn down the game audio a lot for live streams. I turn it down to like 10, 20, something like that for live streams, but that makes it very difficult to work with in recordings, so we don't do that here. But basically, once I plug in the console here, it just starts working. And it just shows up there on a slight delay. But then I can also have the raw footage go to either this monitor or this monitor, depending on the cable I have back here. And something else which has never really been that apparent is the way that I do my lighting in most cases is I have this flap here that goes over the light, and what that does is it makes the light shine all over the room with a bright white light, except this cover this cover here, when I pull it over, it prevents the light from shining directly on my head down here, which would just make it look flushed out and really white. And so I try to avoid that because it looks pretty bad. And then I have my desk light here, which in most cases I'll have it like that, and it just kind of lights up the corner of the room pretty well. Or I can fold it down here and use it as an actual desk light, which works really well because I'm left-handed, and having the light on the right side means that I won't get any kind of shadow over my work. Actually, no, I need it pointed this way right now. But what I really like about this light is, one, since I have it almost parallel to the webcam that I'm typically using for recordings when it sits here, it pretty much means that the lighting is always straight on. I don't have to worry about multiple lights on the sides because I just have one light pointing the same direction as the webcam. And then what I also like about this one is it has multiple buttons, so you can change it between white and yellow, which isn't that apparent when you stare at it. But then it also has all these brightness settings. So you get like 5 steps of between yellow and white, and then you also get all of these as brightness settings, including these are actually buttons too. But that's how I get a lot of my recordings done, and try to match the lighting. And sometimes I have to tweak that if there's sunlight, because I got my window over here. What else? But yeah, typically for output, there's just an output cable on my capture card over here. This one outputs to my main monitor, and then the one I have plugged in right now outputs to the TV, which I have it on YouTube right now instead of a game I'm playing. But then I just have it hooked up on the back of the TV here, and it just plays it natively. So even if there's a bit of a delay here, the recording software doesn't actually delay the audio input, so we can take the desktop audio directly and use it as audio during the gameplay. Yeah, but there's not too much more to it. Once we do that... Oh yeah, one thing I forgot to mention. The way that I record PC footage, I used to rely on OBS to do everything, and I've had inconsistent results. But now that I've figured out what was the issue with my computer, I can just hit Alt-Z, or maybe not on... yeah, there it is. And it brings up this GeForce thing, which I can actually just hit record and start recording the entirety of whatever desktop monitor I indicate for it to record. And then there's a series of, where is it? Then there's a series of settings I can do with it. Yeah. So I can have it set to whatever the resolution in the game is, and then I can set it to like high, medium, or low settings. Or I can set it to something custom, like even just my desktop instead of the game itself. And what I found is that in most cases, all I need to worry about is just hitting start and selecting in-game. But VR games are incredibly inconsistent. Every single game is formatted differently, and it just pops up a random window on the screen. There's never any full screen option. Sometimes there is, and it just stretches the image instead. And sometimes the capture software will record that at different resolutions. So most VR games I have to record 2 or 3 times before I even start making an episode out of it, because the recording format is super inconsistent with those. I like things like Echo Arena or Robo Recall, which they're just full screen and nothing gets weird about it. But other things that I've played on the channel, like what was it, like Abe VR, the one sitting experience, it showed up in like a tiny little window that's like this big on the screen. You couldn't do anything to change that, and then when you record it, it crops it a whole bunch vertically. So super weird stuff, but ultimately it works pretty well, because when you hit the screen capture, you just hide the software. All that changes is in the lower corner of every single screen, there will be a tiny green dot, which indicates that you're recording, but it's not something that's actually picked up in the recording. Otherwise, it doesn't hinder anything. It's kind of like having, what's that one software, Fraps, that throws the frame rate counter on it. It's kind of like that, but it doesn't actually get in the way of anything. The main reason that that works incredibly well compared to something like OBS is because OBS has to like screen capture and format it in its own way, and sometimes you have it modified a bit. Like this normal image would be 1080p by 1440, but I have it at 500 by 1000 pixels because that's the format I want. And then I can also afford to record it at a lower resolution because it saves on data, makes it process more efficiently, and because it's just going to be a tiny box in the corner whenever I get to the Let's Play, it's not necessary to have a very high resolution, since it's going to be in the corner. I don't know. Anything I didn't cover? Anything else you might want from a quick room tour? Yeah, I really liked it. This was probably one of the biggest things for my setup that took me forever. I wanted a double recliner for about 3 years before I managed to find one, because they're pretty expensive. I eventually managed to find this one for about $400 new. It was just that no one was buying it, so they like cut down the price from like $1,000. The main reason I wanted a double recliner is because I feel like couches are a bit inconsistent. I like having an armrest on either side or being able to lean either way. I like the compartment in the middle, which I keep a neck pillow and an extra blanket in. The cup holders are really nice, and it works really well for 2 people. But the biggest reason that I wanted one of these is because, well, it's mostly blocked off. I have a CRT and the HD TV, and depending on what I'm playing, most consoles that run off AV I will hook up to the CRT instead. I always have a chair that is perfectly aligned with the TV, but neither of them are so unaligned that I can't have a friend sit there and it works just fine. So this has been one of my favorite things in my gaming setup, the double recliner. Because if you have a setup where there's an HD TV and a CRT, it makes a huge difference to be able to just kind of choose your favorite. And I mean, I guess I glossed over it, but my PC, I did hook it up specifically with wireless peripherals and the way that it's hooked up to the TV, and I can change the size of it. So I can easily just, in like 30 seconds, just grab everything and then just be using my PC from the couch. I've done this a little bit for editing videos, but yeah, it's a bit out of budget at this point, and if I did do that, I'd want them to be the same mic, because two different mics, that could sound kind of wonky. I haven't looked too much into upgrading mics, because I've been fairly satisfied with what I have. Yeah. I haven't really looked into mics because I've been satisfied with what I have. But if I did, I'm thinking I'd probably go with something Sennheiser. I've been looking to upgrade a lot of my audio equipment to Sennheiser now that I've tried out, because I've tried out a lot of brands, including things like Audio-Technica, some of the Sony stuff, and then just ones that I've originally had for a long time, like August and like Skullcandy or something, which at this point I don't really consider that good. But honestly, if you're ever looking for headphones, my top recommendation is these ones, which I've done a lot of research on headphones. I haven't listened to tons of headphones. I'm not like a huge review channel on headphones, but I did a lot of research on headphones, and when it comes to good quality, and then like efficiency and ease of use, but still being affordable, these are the best I've ever come across, because they're still folding headphones. They've got a huge battery life. They're like 10-15 hours. I've never had the battery die on me, and I use them for like 2 weeks at a time before recharging. They're Bluetooth with all the standard media buttons, and they're really easy to use. Really comfortable, really adjustable. But what I really like is they sound pretty good. As far as the headphones I've used, I'd say they sound like $80, $90 headphone equivalents, maybe $100 headphone equivalents, but they're typically, like, they launched around 80, but now they're like 50, because they're kind of an older headphone, but I've always really enjoyed them. And as far as headphones go, I still want to upgrade them to a Bluetooth set of Sennheisers that I've been looking at, because they're just going to be better headphones overall. But when it comes to quality and price, those are the best headphones I've ever come across, and that's been my, well, not necessarily primary headphone the entire time, since I got the Sennheiser C95-8S, I believe they are. They're like $300 though, so not for everybody. They're closed back stereo, or what is it, like studio headphones. So they aren't for everybody. They're pretty pricey, but really recommend the August EP650 for anybody who's looking into those. I originally heard about them actually from, what was it, Raymond Senderis, I believe his name is. It's kind of an up-and-coming channel that some of you might know. He mostly does little like 1-2 minute reviews of random Nintendo stuff, but I've been enjoying his content for a while, and he used to do a lot of headphone reviews, and that was originally what got me really interested in trying to upgrade my headphones, because so many of the big channels look at like, what is the best headphone you can possibly get, regardless of price. And he had a huge focus on headphones from like the $50 to $100 range, which those videos might be a bit outdated. He hasn't done many in like the last year or so, but I really enjoyed that. I kind of got off topic of what I was talking about, but just mentioning something that I'm probably not the best person to talk to about, but that's just where I've ended up with it. I guess if there's any more questions that don't involve like taking down the blankets to look at stuff, there's that, but otherwise the stream might end pretty soon because I don't have too many more ideas for what to say. And I'm honestly surprised my friend hasn't come yet. Actually, whenever he does get here, he'll probably call me, and I'm using my phone to live stream, so I don't... What happens when you get a call and you're live streaming? I don't know if I want to find out, but... Any last questions before we get into an exciting recording session? It's kind of intense. We've actually narrowed it down to wire lengths of controllers. No. That's something I've specifically tried to counteract. I don't necessarily have it for every console to like a huge degree, but I have extension cables for every console I can. So they're all 6-foot cables. Okay. He just left home. So I have 2 extenders for the original Xbox, and that will easily make them reach the couch. The other ones that I'm not going to mention because they're actually kept over here. For the NES and SNES Classic, I have 6-foot extension cables, and I actually have 4 of those, so if I need to, I can actually, like, double the length of it, so I can actually have, like, the SNES Classic, like, running to the door over there, pretty much. And I can have the NES Classic almost run to my bed with the cable extenders I have for them. But I have one for PS1 and PS2. It works either way. But for the most part, another thing that I do with my cable lengths that I specifically try to do is every console that uses wired controllers, I have as much extra cable hiding back there as possible. I'll typically use this table over here for it, but I can just set it on that table, and that gives me an additional, like, who knows, 3-4 feet, which could be all the difference. Let me put this back quick. Don't want the cable getting tangled on anything. Okay. But that gives me some extra length. I've gotten these extenders, they're... Focus. It's working. Focus! That's a bad thing to focus on. It's actually a pretty bad controller. Great console, horrible controller. But then I've got extenders. I've got 2 for this, 1 for PS1 or PS2, works either way. I've got 1 for Dreamcast. Wii doesn't need it at all. I have 2 of them for GameCube, but actually the GameCube controllers do have a long enough cable to reach here without too much issue. I have 2 for the N64, although I'm fairly sure I lost one. I do not have one for the Sega Genesis yet. That's probably the only one I still need one for, except that's also because of where the power is and where it plugs into the TVs. This console has the most, like, being able to pull it out. Like, when I was recording Sonic Spinball, I was able to pull it from here and just set it on my desk. So that one I can pull out way more than the other consoles. And, like, I could probably put it here if I wanted to. So I don't necessarily need cable extensions for that console. But it is pretty much the only one I still might look into. Is there another question? I don't know. Show you the pets maybe? Whatever they're up to. Oh, oh sorry guy, I took your trademark sound effect. Yeah, I guess I got posters around here. Yeah, the room is 11 feet this way and about 21.5 feet the long way, and it is actually not, it's like maybe less than a foot taller than I am. It's not a very tall ceiling. So, always a bit difficult for VR, and it can make recordings a bit odd, but because of how the ceiling's formatted, it's easy to tuck the blankets into the ceiling, as well as like these LED strips that I have for the dim lights in my room. But this is Bunky. The best thing about him is he always just likes... He just likes to relax. He likes being pet a lot, but he's not much for being picked up, and he generally looks grumpy for no reason in particular. Butterscotch is in here. I used to have 3 rats. Well, I used to have 4 rats, but now she's the only one left. The others got sick. She's probably a bit sleepy. Butterscotch, you want to look at the camera? I mean, I know people hate rats, but she's super sweet. The only problem with her is she's difficult to keep track of, because most pets you can just lure them with treats or put them in a cage or something, but her, she just kind of makes a mission to be as social as possible. So she's always in search of people. She just ignores treats. She just wants to climb onto hands for the most part. Like, she's been asleep all day, but if she was a bit more awake, she might actually just climb on my hand. But we could always give him a treat, which I have these yogurt drops that he gets super crazy about. I mean, she kind of cares about him, but he goes nuts. He's fallen out of the cage before for them, so. But we'll give her one because she takes them a bit more gently. There you are. Pretty cute. Oh no! No! Where'd it go? There. Funky. You got it. What a nice nugget. And she's in her little hideaway box. It's been really weird for her because when there was other rats in here, it was always kind of conflicting for like treats or food. Like they'd obviously each get one, but whoever finished first would get an opportunity to try to steal it from the others, but you'd also try not to have it stolen from the others. Either way, my friend's probably going to be here soon, so I guess we can finish off the stream with one of Bunky's favorite things. Oh, get your box out of the way. He has the box. Normally he can chew on it or something, but mostly he just likes to throw it around, and if I put hay in there sometimes because he likes that. But he always likes being brushed because he has very thick fur. But the weird thing about him, though, is... Will this actually stay upright? Yeah, that's just the tissue box. Okay, my phone won't stay upright for this, but I'll pick it up before I show it. The thing is, since he grooms himself anyway, if you take the fur off the comb, he just eats it. Usually. Or he at least gets very excited about it. But nope. Nope. Yeah. There you are. I guess he's not in the mood. He probably just wants more. Oh, now he's eating it. Because he's just used to like eating his fur when he's done. I don't know why. But, would it be worth sneaking and just showing who the Let's Play is with? Because this Let's Play is going to be a long ways out. This is most likely going to be the Let's Play after both Metro games, or maybe even the Let's Play after whatever game we do after that. So, whatever series we record tonight, this is a long way off. Probably like summer at the very soonest. So, he'll be here soon. I just know it. I guess something else I can do. This isn't something that's been shown in videos. Well, it's shown in one unlisted video, but the outside area. This is really nothing I have any part in, but it's just kind of a big area in the basement. Covered my door with little ornaments and stuff. That's some artwork I made a while ago. But yeah. Yes. Dang it, you remember that. Then this area is constantly changing. They just move couches everywhere because there's just so many of them in here. Like we've actually taken like 2 or 3 of them out. And there's just kind of the end of the basement, upstairs, bathroom. So it's a very nice basement. Oh, the person is here, so let's get him. Hannah! How'd you know? Hey, look. He's here. So here's a bit of a spoiler. Hey!
Hey.
Hello.
You made it.
Why do you have a selfie stick?
You see that button in the corner? Okay.
Nice job there.
Yes.
Nice job.
So thus concludes the live stream. Goodbye.